Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Citizen Remote's Q&A session. I am joined today by Gerhard, who is our South African lawyer down there. Gerhard, I know we've done this before. I know there's been some updates and some things we want to expand on, so I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this again with us to kind of provide a new update as we kind of finish out the 2025 year here. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Tim, great seeing you again, man. And yes, thank you. It's been quite exciting and yeah, a lot has happened. I think especially regarding the digital nomad here in South Africa, to call the remote worker visa, it's now almost a year that it's actually been live, and yeah, a lot of positive progress and things are definitely looking on the up. And yeah, we're busy gearing up for summer, like I just mentioned to you behind the scenes here. Winter is almost ending in Cape Town, so yeah, the freezing cold's almost over.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even though I know I've lived in Australia, I just visited South Africa a few months ago and it was absolutely beautiful. I really think more people should consider this visa and relocating to South Africa, so I'm excited to dive into that. But it's still funny, even though knowing, the Southern Hemisphere, when you say, winter's wrapping up, it just sounds funny. It just sounds funny because it's like, no, it's about to start. But yeah, so Gerhard, maybe we can just kick things off by just re-elaborating, like, what is that remote working digital nomad visa? Who might be eligible? Just kind of high level considerations for people who might be wanting to relocate to South Africa.
Perfect. Definitely, I agree with that. So basically, the remote worker visa, or the South Africa's version of the digital nomad visa, it's for foreigners. You want to come and reside in South Africa, it allows you to stay here for up to 3 years. But the nice thing is, it allows you to come and live in South Africa while working for your foreign employer. Right on it, John. Nice thing about that 3 years as well, it is renewable. Right, so unfortunately, it does not lead to permanent residency, but the way things are standing now, it doesn't look like there's a limit of renewables on this type of visa, right? So that's a very nice thing of it. You can literally come and live a life here while working remotely for your foreign employer on it. Your two main requirements for this, the first one is, that's quite crucial, is you need an employment contract from your foreign employer, right? They've been quite strict with this, relating that unfortunately it does not make provision for freelancers or self-employed applicants on it. They're looking for somebody, you have to be employed by a company as an employee. Then your second requirement on it is the financial income. You need to earn a yearly salary of at least around about 651,000 rands per year. That, just checking here, that adds up to roughly about 36,000 US dollars per year. So that's a financial requirement. How do you prove that? With the application, obviously, they'll need that employment contract and your latest 3 months bank statements, indicating that you are receiving the salary on it. And that's the most important part of it.
Yeah, great. So a few things that I wanted to point out there that people who are probably listening are like, oh, wait a second. So when you say self-employed and freelancers, that just means obviously anyone who has their own company and all of that. But let's say, for an example, if you're a self-employed individual, but you're a full-time employee through your company, so you're technically employed by your own company, would you therefore be eligible, or is there kind of a minimum level that your company has to make? Like, how do they make that determination?
Right. So it's a bit of a gray area there, right? If you put it like that, and it'll also depend on how the embassy views it, right? The law is very straight in this regard. They want to see you as an employee of that company, right on it, right? So if you own the company, in the employment contract as well, who's going to sign off as the employer and who's going to sign off as the employee. So that's definitely something that's going to raise flags. So to keep it sweet and short, they're looking for that. You've got to be that full-time employee of a company that's sending you to South Africa.
Okay, good to know. And then, yeah, maybe if you're in that kind of gray area, at least maybe good to have a conversation. I know there are many other pathways to South Africa. We can maybe dive into some of those later in this video of some other potential pathways. But I guess with that, you said, that embassy and those consulates will kind of process that for you. Are you allowed to apply inside South Africa, or must you apply outside to begin with?
So no, unfortunately, it does not allow you to apply from within South Africa while on a tourist visa. You will have to apply from within your home country or your country of valid long-term residency, right? That valid long-term residency is also quite an important one. So you can't be holding a tourist visa in Spain, for example, and now submit your application in Spain. It needs to be valid long-term residency, right? And quite a
Yes.
crucial point of that as well, right? When you submit your application, they will keep your passport for processing as well, right? So that's a topic that comes up here on a daily basis with clients that don't think about it, and they possibly got some travel plans and that, right? So just something to bear in mind in the back of the head.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I actually figured out decently, recently, was that when you are applying and submitting your passport for these applications, a lot of countries, I know two off the top of my head, UK and US, for example,
Mhm.
actually allow you to have multiple passports, like obviously the same passport for those reasons. So like if you're from the US, you can actually apply for a second passport. So then you can apply for this South African visa, give up your passport. Many other visa or countries require this as well when you're applying, and then still have that other passport to be able to travel. Obviously, there's a whole heap of things that you'll have to do to go through that process to get that second passport. But something, if you're really wanting to go and apply soon, but you need to travel or something, it is a possibility that we can help with and all of that. So I just thought that was important to note. Um,
Definitely, right.
yeah. And then you said 3 years, not a pathway to permanent residency, but it is extendable. It sounds like it's extendable indefinitely. Is that?
So at the moment, we are looking at extendable indefinitely, right? Obviously, of course, this visa only went live last year in October. So we're almost 12 months in it, right?
Yeah.
So the first renewals haven't happened as yet. But according to the current visa conditions, there's no limits on extending it as yet.
Okay, and that's good. And obviously, things change often in this space, so
Mm.
don't bank on the fact that you're always going to be able to. But I would imagine at least extending once probably won't go away anytime soon. It's maybe thereafter, and that'll be years down the line, hopefully. And then maybe you can just elaborate on. You said there's no pathway to permanent residency. Is there? Maybe we can pivot quickly to these other visas. Is there a ability to shift while in South Africa to something else that can lead to permanent? Let's say somebody really enjoys their time there and wants to set up, a life. Is there any potential pathway while on that, 3-year remote working digital nomad visa to do such?
Oh, yes, definitely there is. Because once you have the digital nomad visa or the remote worker visa for South Africa, you've got that valid long-term residency, right?
Okay.
So you can apply for a change of condition into another visa category, obviously, if you qualify for it. If you're looking at temporary residency, South Africa, very popular visa in South Africa is the retired person's visa, right? Nice thing about this one, it's a retired person's visa, but there's no minimum age connected to it,
Mm,
right? So it opens quite a few options, right, on it.
yeah.
The main thing that you always just got to remember about this visa, yes, it's got no minimum age requirement to it, but it does not allow you to work in South Africa. And also when you apply for it, you're not allowed to be working because they want to view you as retired, right, with this visa. Your main financial requirement for this one is you need to show a passive income of 37,000 rands per month. This you show ideally through pension, right? That's first price, but obviously if you don't meet that age yet, you can look at rental income from properties that you own. Or if you own a business and you receive dividends from that, that can also be used to qualify for this visa. Nice one about that, it allows you to stay in the country for up to 4 years, and it is also renewable on it, right? Obviously, depending on how you prove that financial income on it.
Okay. And
Right,
that's a
so
temporary residence. Is that correct? So that's also, is that a pathway to permanent residency, or is that?
yes,
Okay.
Definitely, that's an exciting one with a nice pathway to permanent residency, right? But that depends on how you prove that financial income, right?
Okay.
Because they want to see that financial income as a lifelong income, right? So pension, obviously first prize, right? If you're going to prove it with the rental income, you're going to get some questions asked, right? And that doesn't necessarily get viewed as a lifelong income, right?
Hmm.
So, but otherwise, yes, definitely. For the pension holders qualifying for this visa, it's a nice, quick, easy way to permanent residency, right? Because literally the moment you receive this visa, you can come to South Africa and submit your permanent residency application.
Oh, wow. That's
Right
very
on
nice
it.
then.
So, yeah, the processing of the permanent residency is a bit longer than your temporary residency. We're currently looking at roughly about 24 months from submission. That's about 2 years. However, I'm proud to say as well, we are receiving a lot of positive progress in that
Okay.
regard, right? Things are really looking good.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, when you're looking at permanent residency, it means that you need to reside in the country full time, to keep it active,
Mhm.
I believe, or maybe you can elaborate on that.
No, so that's what's nice about it, right? Is all our visa categories, even the temporary residency visas, they're multi-entry visas, right? So you're allowed to come in and out of the country during the visa, right? Permanent residency as well. You don't have to stay permanently in the country, right? Your main thing to keep that permanent residency valid is you need to enter South Africa at least once every 3 years to keep it valid.
Is there a minimum stay on how long you have to be there when entering, or is it just?
A weekend,
Oh my
right?
goodness. Okay. So
Yeah. So that's,
that's very nice. So then you can keep
mm,
that permanent residency as long as you come a weekend every 3 years.
definitely, right? Just make sure you
Wow.
come that weekend every 3 years. Just keep it active at all times. And again, referring to our previous conversation, these regulations and stuff do change. So make sure that you're always
Yeah.
up to date with any changes happening around on it, right?
Absolutely. And so with that, I assume that that means you don't need to maintain like accommodation or anything like that through the life of this, as it's just you have that residency as long as you, yeah, enter once every 3 years.
Definitely, exactly as you said, as long as you enter once every 3 years and you keep the residency condition valid.
Wow,
Right.
wonderful. And then just for anyone who didn't already Google it, that 37,000 Rand a month, that's around 2,100 USD. So should
Roughly
be
is.
pretty attainable for a lot of people, especially looking at that retirement age. So, okay, let me just pivot here to any other kind of things that we maybe overlooked. Going back to the digital nomad visa, the remote working visa, do you need like any specific insurance or like a university degree or anything like that?
No, so those qualifications, they're not specific to the remote worker visa,
Okay.
right? So they won't be looking at your qualifications. But obviously, if you have qualifications, you add it as motivation. But the main focus will be that foreign employment, right?
Hmm.
Contract. That's your main criteria that the remote worker visa will be based on. To say that, listen, you are employed by X, Y, and Z in England, for example, who allows you to come and work remotely in South Africa for 3 years, right? So visa conditions in that regard, the remote worker visa won't focus on your qualifications on
Okay.
that.
And then anything like background checks or anything like that, is that a requirement or no?
Yes, definitely. Right. So all long-term residencies in South Africa, they require your latest police clearance certificate, right?
Okay.
So they need a police clearance certificate from every country where you stayed for 12 months and more in the last 5 years, right? That's crucial to it, right? And with that, you also need a medical clearance certificate,
Okay.
right? It's basically, that's a one-pager issued by the Department of Home Affairs that you take to your medical center, right, or your local GP, and they do a full medical check on you and they sign it off on there.
Okay, so no required health insurance, but you do need a medical clearance certificate.
Correct, John. So with a health insurance, I strongly advise falling to the private healthcare system in South Africa, right? We've got some great private healthcare operators over there in South Africa, and it's very quick and easy to access them as well on it. Right.
Okay.
We've
And
also found that some embassies, sorry for interrupting there,
no, you're
right, that some embassies actually do insist on seeing that you do have health insurance on there.
okay. So yeah, so then that's definitely one, it might not be explicit, but especially as some consulates are mandating it, that's why it's beneficial, obviously, to work with us and you, Gerhard. Again, as I haven't mentioned already, if you're interested, there's a link to book a consultation directly with Gerhard. Things do change. I think one of the things that I really notice is if you're applying from the U.S., from Australia, from the U.K., it varies. Like the
Definitely.
requirements are subtle depending on the consulates. It's kind of up to them on how they process these things. And so, just because you have that base document list from the South African website, it might vary depending on the consulate that you're applying from. So that's why it's really beneficial to kind of understand, talk with somebody who's got their finger on the pulse, such as yourself. So yeah, something to always note there. Taxes. So again, sticking here with the digital nomad remote working visa, I know we won't go too heavy into the taxes, but just at least like what those obligations are, and kind of like, when and if you have to set up your ID and all of that stuff.
Right, definitely. So one of the other requirements for the remote worker visa is to apply for this visa for valid more than 6 months to get the full duration of the 3 years of this visa, right? You need to register with the South African Revenue Services, right? So basically, this will have a lot to do with tax agreements and double taxation agreements between your home country and South Africa. One thing that I have noticed is most countries do have that double taxation agreement with South Africa in it, right? So the applicant will then be required to register with the South African Revenue Services, and they will then work out, listen here, how much will he be taxed in South Africa? How much will he be taxed in his home country? And in relation to that, they'll work out where the applicant will be paying majority of his tax. However, in that regard, I would also, as you mentioned, it's strongly advised, especially for your company as well and the individual, to always speak to a professional tax advisor so that you know exactly where you stand with these things on it.
Absolutely. And then, just in relation to the visa application itself, I know that some countries mandate like specific employees to get a document from their home country for that bridge of that kind of like double taxation agreement. I think for the U.S. it's like a W-2, like A1 certificate, to essentially get approval for the W-2 full-time employee to relocate. Is there something like that required, or is it something that's kind of handled on the back end? You don't necessarily need that upfront certificate, but it's kind of handled from the South African side once you relocate and live there.
I'm not really 100% sure on the home country, on their document at the home country, if that will be required for submission. I would assume then that will also depend on the embassy, right? On the way you submit the application on it as well, right? But what we do, like with the South African Revenue Registration, that's something we can assist with, right? Okay. With the registration of it, and we'll provide you then with that document to say that, listen, you are registered with the South African Revenue Services, right, to allow you to get the visa for more than 6 months.
Perfect. Okay, so it sounds like you guys do obviously help register with all of that, so that's fantastic. And then dependents. That's a big question that always gets brought up. Who is a dependent? Is it your 23-year-old child, or your mother who's retired, or does it have to be like who's a dependent?
No, perfect, right? So who's a dependent? South Africa is one of the few countries in Africa, right? So dependent doesn't only have to be marriage, but we acknowledge life partnership in South Africa as well, right? So for the temporary residency, a notarial agreement confirming your life partnership, right? And then you have to start proving the life partnership, right? They're going to need 2 years proof of shared financial responsibilities, right? And 2 years proof of cohabitation to confirm the life partnership. So yes, it's going to be quite a bit of documents, because remember, all this proof that you are compiling needs to be equivalent to a marriage certificate,
Yeah.
right, on it. So, but the nice thing is, like I say, South Africa is one of the few countries that actually acknowledges life partnership, right? So the dependent can then apply based on that life partnership to the spouse, right, on it. South Africa is also one of the few countries in Africa that acknowledges same-sex marriages and same-sex relationships as well. Right. Then the other dependents, that's allowed obviously children, but they got to be minor under the age of 18.
Okay.
Right. Unfortunately, the moment that child hits 18, he's an adult, and he or she needs to qualify in their own right for it. Right. But it's also very crucial for the children. If they are of school going age in South Africa, they'll need to register for study visas, right, to qualify to go study, to pursue their education at the school where they will be attending in South Africa.
Okay, so that's super important. So let's say a
Mm.
family of four wants to relocate. Let's say they're married, but they have two kids who are 10 and 12. So they're not necessarily going to apply as a dependent, but they'll actually apply with student visas. But
Correct.
it's all in the same kind of application, or how does that work?
No, pretty much exactly as you said, right? So they'll still apply as a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead of the minors getting what we call accompanying minor visas,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be applying for study visas
Okay.
to allow them to go to the school. So they'll need a provisional acceptance. Unfortunately, the family is going to have to make their choice on the schools that they go to. Luckily, I must say, in South Africa, there's a couple of great schools around. A lot of effort gets put in on it, right? But
Yeah.
it's the whole family still gets to apply together, right?
Okay.
All in one.
Yeah, and that's maybe just a good time to emphasize like the timing of all of this is quite important,
Mm,
especially if you're a family, which I assume most families who are wanting to relocate understand that. But like maybe it's a good opportunity for us to also dive into the expected timeline of how long these processes usually take. Maybe you can elaborate not only just on the consulate like level of like how long they take to process, but if how long you would personally recommend maybe like a family that we just described, kind of at least engaging, having a conversation with us to then begin those steps and make sure that they're aligned to go in school and do all that appropriately.
definitely. So my recommendation, right, if this is something that you guys think is happening, right, reach out to us as soon as possible. Let's start the conversation, right? Let's touch on the main requirements so that listening exactly, this is what needs to be done. We'll sit and we will work out the time frame with you. Because the last position you want to sit in is, I need this visa now in 3 weeks' time,
Yeah,
right? You
which we get
understand
quite
what?
often. We get quite often.
Pretty much, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I love to sell magic, but not very, but the reality on it is there will be quite a few things that need to be taken into consideration here. So what I would suggest, reach out to us as soon as possible. Let us start the process at least say about 2 months prior, right? That's giving it a long, comfortable time frame for you to start that process, or at least a month prior, right,
Okay.
to your planned submission date, not travel
Yes.
date on it, right?
Yes.
Because remember, each embassy as well, the US, for example, they take roughly 4 weeks, right, to process your application. Majority of other countries, you're potentially looking at 8 to 12 weeks,
Yep.
right? So that's something you see, so that and preparation time can very easily calculate to a 4 month process, 4 to 5 month process. I think that's why, with the emphasis on it, it's so crucial to get in contact with us so that we can identify your place of submission and advise you straight according to that case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just important to emphasize, you were mentioning those 1 to 2 months there, but again, that's
Mm.
before any appointment you may or may not already have with the consulate, because then that can vary from 1 to like 3 months, as you just said. And so really
Perfect.
important, it sounds like you're kind of suggesting maybe 4 to 6 months, have that conversation because there's a lot of moving pieces. And when you reach out and say, I want to move, we're flying in a month, it makes things a little bit more stressful. So if you don't want the stress, the earlier the better. Wonderful. And then maybe, obviously, I was just in South Africa, as I mentioned here, and it's fantastic. It's so beautiful. I absolutely loved Cape Town. Did the Table Mountain,
Yeah.
did the wine regions, which were just immaculate, and it's all very affordable. Like, it's just so affordable. And so maybe we can just briefly highlight, like, obviously this isn't necessarily visa related, but just general cost of living in South Africa. It can vary when you're in, an amazing part of Cape Town, or be in wine region, but like, what would you expect someone to pay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'd say for a comfortable lifestyle, right? You look at roughly 20 to 30,000 rands per month.
Yep.
That's dollars, that's around about 1,200 US dollars to the region of about 1,700 US dollars. That will allow you a nice, comfortable lifestyle. And I'm not talking specifically Cape Town or Johannesburg. Obviously, certain other areas, you can look at lowering that amount a bit on it as well. But I'll put again on it, it's a nice, comfortable lifestyle at least.
Yeah, and I just know that when I was going out to eat, it was just amazing food and very affordable compared to up here in Iceland. Let me tell you, it's quite great down there. And I was wearing flip-flops and everything. It's a beautiful area. So hopefully people who hear this, they at least can understand now. Maybe if they're eligible, obviously when's a good time to reach out and all of that. So Gerhard, did we miss anything that maybe is important to note?
I think we pretty much covered most of it, right? I'm trying to think of anything else, maybe with the appointments wise and the whole processing of it, maybe to put some more emphasis on it. Some embassies do take quite a while just for you to get an appointment date.
Yes.
Right, that also need to be so beautiful. Some places can take 4 weeks to process your application, but what if it takes you 2 to 3 months to get an appointment?
Yes.
Right? Those are certain scenarios that we tend to sit in from time to time as well. But yeah, I think apart from that, we pretty much got it all.
Yeah, and that's something to note, that that's not just a South Africa thing. That is pretty much a lot of countries that we work
Yes.
with. That appointment is difficult sometimes to get. They fill up, and then you just have to wait and refresh to get that meeting. So I guess one more thing to note here as we wrap it up is that, we can obviously, with you, Gerhard, help with many visa types, not just this digital nomad visa.
Yes.
So if there's any questions on just visas in general, relocation to South Africa, go ahead and check out that link and get in touch with Gerhard and his team, and they can absolutely assist you. So wonderful, Gerhard. Thank you so much for the time, and we look forward to sending more people to South Africa.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. No, thank you to you, man. We're looking forward to it. And yeah, the summer is starting. Still icy cold, but we're getting there. Right, we're getting there. We can see the mountain today. It's clear skies. So, no, definitely. Come make it in, get in contact with us and see how we can do it.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Gerhard.
Cool. Thank you.